Howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. We got a lot to get into in this video here today, okay? I got some really good news to share with you. I got some really bad news to share with you. I also invested the most money I have in quite some time into the market here today, $15,000, which is a much bigger move for me than, let's just call it the past couple months. And I'm going to share exactly what stocks I bought here today. We also have, oh boy, a situation brewing that, if you think we're in 08, 09, we're likely not right now, but if we're doing the type of thing I'm going to show you in this video here today, in a few years from now, we could end up in another 08, 09 situation. Let's just put it that way. And oh boy, okay. Yeah, so a lot to get into in this video here today, guys. Hope you enjoy this as always. I appreciate you joining me. Much love as always, and I appreciate everybody being subscribed to the channel. Also, just so you know, we got the massive flash sale coming up Labor Day for the Become a Master of Stock Market course, my #1 stock market course ever. If you want to receive that deal when it does drop on Labor Day, basically check out pinned comment down there, okay? And enter in your info and we'll send over that deal. So good news to start out here. I want to start this on a positive note. Commodities continue to just tank. So oats down 5% here today, wheat down over 4%, lumber down another 3.6% today, WTI crude down and very nicely here today, copper down, corn down. Only thing that is our pesty little friend here is natural gas. We're having trouble getting natural gas down. Just about everything else we're having success in getting it down, but natural gas is a sticky one right now. And I don't even want to try to predict if we can get that baby down, but that's the one kind of holding up things here, okay? Oat futures have basically gone down since the beginning of April, over 50%. This is how insane the markets are that we get these sorts of drops. Over 50% oats have dropped in the past, let's just call it few months. So this is great news for Oatly shareholders specifically. This is also good news for people that want to see commodities go down. But yeah, any Oatly shareholders, this is big time. This will help in a major way Oatly's profitability over the next year. And if oats continue to go down and down in price, that's a better and better thing for Oatly. They have been absolutely let's just call it smashed by basically oats just being at ridiculous ranges for the last, let's call it 18 months or so. So yeah, in future quarters, this is going to be very good for Oatly, okay? Very good. Lumber continues to drop. Look at this. Just since the beginning of March, lumber is down 64%. Oh my goodness, this is an absolutely epic, insane move, okay? So, once again, we need to continue to see these commodities down. The reason inflation is so astronomically high, okay, is very much in part to, honestly, the biggest chunk of it is because all these commodities have gone up so much in price. Natural gas, WTI, lumber, corn, wheat, oats, all these things, okay? And it's made everything so dang expensive, including, if you think about things like even transportation of goods around, right? If obviously WTI goes through the roof, that's going to make transporting of all goods much more expensive, right? That's just the way it is. And so all these companies have had to be dealing with this, right? The economy in general has had to have been dealing with this whole situation. So the more these commodities come down, the more inflation is going to come down. The more inflation comes down, the more likely the Fed doesn't have to keep this insane pace of, let's just call it rate hikes into 23, and the more likely that the Fed could either stop raising rates in 23 or potentially start cutting rates, okay? So I can tell you this is the most important thing, in my opinion, to the stock market over the next few months, is continuing to see these commodities cool or basically drop in price, because that will make all those inflation numbers start to drop more and more, and especially if we can get supply chains in a better place, let's call it that. But on the bad front, and I didn't prep this as a slide, but China has more lockdowns going on. Oh my gosh, it's never going to end over there. It's absolutely insane, okay? Nvidia, so this stock got absolutely cremated today. Roughly a 9% downward move here for Nvidia today, and I'll share the bad news in regards to this one in just a moment. This one just can't catch a break, to be quite frank with you guys. This is a stock that's down well over 50% this year to date. And the crazy thing with that is if you see a stock down 50% plus year to date, all right, and you're 9 months into the year, you would usually think, okay, it has to be some crazy company that went IPO or some super speculative stock or something like that. You don't see usually a company that has a multi-$100 billion market cap down 54% year to date. But that's the situation with Nvidia. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse, between obviously a slowdown just across the board for almost all companies, including Nvidia, to obviously the crypto crash, which has obviously hurt Nvidia's crypto side of their business, which has always been hard to kind of understand what the numbers are there, right? Gaming had a massive slowdown over the past year. And that's hurt Nvidia in a major, major way. And then basically with this new news that came out that I'll share with you in just a second, it's just been a disaster. AMD's been tore up this year as well. It just hasn't been hit as hard as Nvidia this year. AMD's down about 46% year to date, which is, once again, that's still a huge number for a $100 billion plus market cap. You don't usually see those sorts of moves in companies that are this large, okay? So basically, Nvidia and AMD stock tumble on as the U.S. limits exports to China. Fellow chip maker AMD said it also received word of new U.S. licensing requirement that it doesn't expect to shift any significant effect to the business. So it doesn't, AMD is not as big of a deal. It's a bigger deal for Nvidia. In Wednesday's filing, Nvidia said it doesn't sell any products to Russia, so that's not a problem. But it noted its current outlook for the third fiscal quarter had included about $400 million in potential sales to China that could be affected by the new license requirement. The company also said new restrictions may affect its ability to develop its H100 product on time and could potentially force it to move some operations out of China, okay? So, nonetheless, just more bad news for Nvidia, more bad news for the semiconductor space. And, it also goes into the whole U.S. versus China deal and how bad relations have really gotten between the two countries over the last 5 or 6 years. It's been almost amazing to see. China and the U.S., we worked together for a long time. Very well, actually. And I can tell you over the past 5 or 6 years, the relationship has just, to be quite frank, fallen apart. And you see it, we're talking about potential delisting of a ton of Chinese stocks that are listed in the U.S., right? We're talking about, a lot of companies aren't really investing in China at all the way they once did. You're looking at a lot of U.S. companies that have been very hurt and limited in their business models because of decisions that have been made in China, including even a company like I own in my dividend account, which is Wynn Resorts. Macau's been almost shut down for years now because of Rona, and in a very limited fashion. And Wynn's lost tremendous amounts of money from still operating their properties in Macau. And it's like, when does that situation get fixed? No pun intended. And no one really knows, right? So the relationship between China and the U.S. is as bad as it's been at any point in the past 20 plus years. It's in a bad spot, and it's hurting a lot of companies. And the biggest problem is, I don't know if it's going to get better. I mean, it just seems like it's getting worse, and I think that's why the U.S. is so focused on trying to build more semiconductor plants in the United States, because we're so reliant on Taiwan, and there's that whole situation, and people are wondering, is there something bigger going on behind the scenes? It's a mess, man. It's a mess. And so it's unfortunate, but it is something you have to kind of deal with as being an investor in the market, okay? Now, this is kind of strange. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Paul Pelosi, who's always in the news for his stock trades, dodged an extra 20% loss selling Nvidia stock in July before the August U.S. restrictions. It's just a bad look, man. It's a bad look. When you have these sorts of situations and you have somebody that's let's just call it, the husband of somebody that works super high up in government, and you see them make a move like that, regardless if they had inside information or not that this was coming down, it's a horrible, awful look. And I mean an absolute horrible, awful look. So that's a whole mess in itself, okay? Zoom stock. I want to talk about Zoom stock for just a moment here, okay? So this is not a stock I personally own. But I gotta say, Zoom is actually very, very intriguing now at this point in time. It's trading for a 20-ish billion dollar market cap, $25 billion market cap at this point in time. Stock's been obliterated over the past year. It's down 72%. And once again, this isn't a stock I own, but and I've never liked this stock, but gosh, it has gotten to such ridiculous valuation that it's actually quite compelling, okay? First thing I want to kind of show you guys here is, check this out. This is from a member in the private group that did some digging in regards to Zoom here. So a member of the private stock group pointed this out. They were doing some digging on Zoom here, okay? So in 2019, The increase in revenue was 88%. 63% of that was due to existing customers. 37% of that was due to new customers. 2020, 326% increase in revenue. 27% was due to existing customers, 73% from new customers. In 2021, increase of 55% in revenue. 70% was due to existing customers, while only 30% was due to new customers. So this is actually quite an intriguing situation with Zoom that I don't think a lot of people really know about, where essentially this in terms of their revenue, so much of it comes from existing customers. So the company isn't just reliant on let's say new customers, because I think there's a thought process around Zoom that the only way they can have their revenues go up essentially is if they acquire more and more new customers, when that's just false. They can make more money from existing customers. And I think that makes Zoom pretty darn compelling. And so, it's especially at its current valuation, that's the big thing on why this is actually a compelling value proposition here. Company trades at about a 22 forward PE. And so, with Zoom, I actually think this could be potentially a moneymaker. Am I going to buy Zoom? Probably not, because there's just so many other good deals out there in the market. But I got to say, this one's actually a moneymaker. When I look at Zoom, there was a whole different situation when this company was trading at, $150 billion market cap or whatever it was at the peak. It was, it was valued very differently, right? And there's a big difference between paying $100-something billion for a company and paying $20-something billion for a company, right? And so, I think Zoom's actually, let's just call it an intriguing value proposition now at this point in time. And I wouldn't be surprised if Zoom sees its shares appreciate quite considerably over the next few years, okay? Now, oil and gas stocks continue to tank. And I thought this was interesting. And the reason I think this is interesting is, every time I watch some dang CNBC, okay, and they speak to the Wall Streeters, every single time they're talking about oil and gas stocks this, oil and gas stocks that. And almost all those folks are very, very bullish still on oil and gas. And I just find it intriguing that so many of these stocks are having trouble performing well. And I really wonder if Wall Street really believes in these stocks, or they only believe in them because they have performed pretty well over the past year. Because if you look at all those stocks and if you were to pull up a year-to-date chart or a one-year chart for basically all these stocks, they perform very, very well. And we know something that the Wall Streeters do all the time is they follow each other around. Basically meaning if there's a certain segment of stocks that are doing well, they all want to pile into those and they want to be associated with those because they can say, look at the last 6 months, look at the last year and things like that, right? And, I do wonder if that's why they're still piling in, if they really believe in these or they're just trying to look good because those have been the good stocks. I don't know, okay? I just think it's a little troubling when the Wall Streeters are all still speaking high things about these sorts of stocks and they still can't perform. That's troubling. That is very, very troubling. It would be one thing if all the Wall Streeters were talking down on these stocks and they were saying, no, don't be in oil and gas stocks. But I mean, literally, I watched quite a bit of CNBC and, these folks are still talking about, hey, you got to be in these oil and gas stocks. This is where the plays are. And it's like, they still can't perform with all that momentum. That's a little interesting. Okay. Now, for me, as a lot of my loyal followers definitely know, I definitely use July and August as kind of cash up months. And, I nibbled on a few shares here and there, but it wasn't very much. Okay. But this month, I'm planning on getting back out there in the market and overall in this fall in general, and especially if the market drops in any substantial ways, any major dips here and there, and obviously this is a good week. That's for instance, look at the NASDAQ over the course of this week. Look at, the amount of stocks that have fallen 10 to 20% just over the past 4 trading days. It's a pretty long list. Let's just call it that, okay? And so I'm looking to get back out there in the market in a major way. And today I did the biggest buy I've done in quite some time. I went ahead and put $15,000 into the public account here today, and I bought some stocks, okay? Including Palantir. I bought 477 shares of Palantir, $7.34. That stock's getting close to a new all-time low. Getting close, okay? So yeah, if it continues to fall more, I'll continue to pick up shares more heavily. I really want to build out a nice size Palantir position. Let's call it, $100,000. And so I'm on my way to, hopefully building that out. And if this baby falls more over the next few months, I'm just going to continue to pick up shares and pick up shares. Honest, I picked up 1,900 shares here today, 1,900 shares in the public account, $3.43 I paid for those shares here. Corsair's a steal deal here today. Picked up 85 shares at $14.32. Corsair got pulled down today because of Nvidia and AMD. And so if Nvidia pulls way down like that, the algorithms pull down Corsair as well, okay? Which I don't think is fair at all. Corsair has nothing to really do with that whole situation, okay? The bottom line is Corsair is in a very strong position, let's call it, especially starting in 4Q. And as we move into 23, coming off these ridiculously easy comps now, over from basically especially from Q1, but it even starts in the fourth quarter. Comps get so easy for Corsair, they're going to just, in my opinion, be in a very, very strong position. So yeah, Corsair, I feel like I've got maybe another few weeks to a month to buy this one, but it's hard for me to see this one continuing to go down much more after, like, let's say the next month or two. Oatly, picked up more shares of Oatly here today, 1,200 shares, $3.09 with Oatly. The hardest thing on a day like today is there's so many stocks that are down so much that it's like, gosh, man, where do I want to put my money? Do I want to put my money in this stock, that stock, and things like that? So those are the ones I put my money in here today, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys saw this. This blew my mind when I read about this here today. Bank of America launches zero down payment mortgages to help individuals with their first home purchases, okay? Now, they use this word right here to try to disarm everybody. So, no one can even try to look at this practically and even try to attack this at all. That's why they're using these sorts of terms, because basically it puts you as an individual who's even looking at this situation as I can't even give my opinion on this. No. What I found is, you don't have to be a minority to basically take advantage of this. You can be anything from the details I found out about this, okay? Now, here's the deal, okay? Basically, what Bank of America wants to do here is they want to give people mortgages and it doesn't matter about your credit score, and you don't have to put a down payment down either, okay? Now, we tried this program in the past, okay? I don't know if anybody knows how we got into so much trouble in the, let's call it great financial crisis, in the 08, let's call it the 2007 through 2011 mess in real estate. How did we get real estate to drop 30, 40, 50+% in many markets across the United States? How did we get that to be such a devastated real estate market for 5 years? Well, how we got to that place was we were doing programs like, you don't need to do a down payment or a very small down payment or no down payment, right? We got to that place by doing things like, just tell me what your income is. We don't need to really verify it. Oh, you make $100,000? Cool. Okay. Here's your mortgage. That's how we got to that place, man. And, if you're talking about potentially giving mortgages out there to folks, and it doesn't matter your credit score, you don't have to put a down payment down, anything like that, right? We're going to set ourselves up into another massive housing bubble, which there's an argument that we've already been in a housing bubble, and then you add something like this, it's just more fuel for the fire, okay? And the folks this helps the most, honestly, are folks that already own a bunch of homes. That's who this helps the most. It helps, folks like myself that own a bunch of homes and other folks I know that are my friends that own a bunch of homes. That's who this ends up helping the most. It'll end up pushing up real estate prices more if you just say, hey, yeah, you don't need a down payment. And they're starting this in a bunch of different cities, but who's to say they're not going to expand this across all cities across the United States over time? And if Bank of America is doing this, who's to say the next bank, who's to say Wells Fargo's not going to do this? And then the next bank, if they see success with that, right? And it's like, oh, they're pushing up revenues. All of them are going to do it. And next thing you know, all of a sudden we got another system that we're creating where it doesn't matter what your credit score is. It doesn't matter what your, if you got no down payment. Here's a mortgage for you. And we end up in the same situation that we ended up in 2007 through 2011 again. And that would set, obviously, a bad bubble to burst again, okay? And so, for me, I would love to hear your guys' opinion in the comments section on this. I asked for people's opinion on Instagram, and, almost everybody along the lines of me. It's one of those things that sounds great on paper, and it's like, yeah, let's give mortgages to folks that, don't have good credit scores, and let's give mortgages to folks that, I don't know, don't need a down payment. You just get a house and just start paying the payments, and that's good. Sounds maybe, cool on paper and like, oh, this is going to be so helpful. But then when you start kind of thinking about the long-term ramifications of this, and also, what's it going to likely do? It could end up boosting up real estate prices in a major, major way again, which makes things even more unaffordable, which makes people not even be able to afford the payments, which then if you get job losses, that creates a bad situation. If you don't have a down payment for a house, right? Think about this for a moment. If you don't have a down payment for the house, then do you really have anything in savings as well? So if you all of a sudden lose your job or something like that and you can't get another job right away, you could start missing your mortgage payments. And then you miss your mortgage payments, right? Next thing we know, we got foreclosures. Next thing you know, we got short sales. And then that breeds into more and more and more. So yeah, the way I look at that is like, it's one of those like fairy tales. It's a fairy tale type thing that, if you told little kids this, they'd be like, oh yes, that's good. If you told an adult this who knows anything about the economy and how, money works, they're going to start looking at this and they'd be like, oh my gosh, are we setting ourselves up into a real pickle again? Once again, man. And that's what I always try to tell people, in regards to the way the government looks at this, the way these, big institutions look at this, they kick the can down the road, and everybody always thinks like, oh, we're going to have some crash or something like that. But then they figure out a next way out, man. And it ends up making for a bigger crash in the future, but they figure out some way out of these situations all the time, okay? Now, I put a video together yesterday, and I think it's a very important video to watch. A lot of people did not get to see this video, and I think it's absolutely a must-watch in my opinion. And it's called Buy Stocks Heavy This Next 6 Months. I go through so many details in that video that are very, very important in my opinion. Like I said, the video didn't perform that great. I think probably because I took the thumbnail picture in a weird place or something like that. But if you didn't get to see that video, watch that video. And if you didn't get to watch it all the way through, make sure you check that video out on the channel, guys. That's a must-watch. Also, just so you know, I got a new channel called Jeremy Lefebvre Makes Money. This is a reaction channel where I react to different videos out there that I think are interesting. And so, if you haven't gotten a chance to check out that channel, you might want to check it out. I appreciate everybody that's already subscribed to the channel and watching the videos. We have almost 10,000 subscribers already, which is absolutely crazy. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being over there, as always. And once again, flash sale coming up, Become a Master Stock Market here in a few days. If you want that to receive that deal, check out pinned comment down there, enter your info, and we'll send you over the flash sale when it drops in a few days from now. Much love as always, and have a great day.